everyone, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to the Slowest WAAAGH, where we are playing Tzeentch. This is turn 2. We got a couple things going on. So, obviously, early turns tend to not be a lot of action, so we kind of like to discuss... Oh, hey. Thanks. Ooh. With that. Playful kitty. We tend to discuss, like hypotheticals and go over things like thrones and pretenders and or not pretenders, names for prophets and all that good stuff, etc., etc. So we're gonna do a lot of that. We did get Thaumaturgy 1 and 2 off of our wisps. We'll be very close to 3. So fingers crossed on all that. Let's go through some prophets. We've got Ronnie Dio and the Prophets. Nice. Of Elf. Okay. So there's Athel, Loren. So we did do, I think like maybe half the lobby. We do naming conventions sometimes, like themes, right? But there was a lot of chat in this lobby. So I think like half the players didn't see the discussions on themes. So only about half of these are, I think, maybe... well, maybe more of the prophets are, because I think more of the prophets are probably themed, but there were a fair amount of gods that weren't themed because people just missed those discussions. And it's not like something that's required or anything like that. It's just, a little jokey thing to do. Anyways, Johnny Rottenbones, the Tomb Herald for Slevin of Nehekara. We got Slapping Sounds of Thy Juicy Cheeks Clappeth. Ay. Of Bretonnia. We got Rhythmics. Rhythmics. Playoff. Kidzin Smith. The Mithril. Zaplin. The Lead. Okay. Cool. Fun. Of Karaz-a-Karak. We've got Scabfang. The biggest, the greenest, the best. That's definitely missed the discussion. Bony Blarg of Khazzyburger. Bone Nose Tribe. Health Insurance CEO Futures. Oof. RFK Jr. Feasting on Roadkill. Double. Oh, sometimes these names. Slan tolls for thee. Nice. For whom the slan tolls. Double nice. I like it. Itza. We got Kill and Maim All Night for Kiss. Great. We got Paul. Just Paul for wings. Mine's very chill. Fear of the Dark. Iron Maiden. Good names. Rock band theme. Fun stuff. Good stuff. We've got the Tzeentch 30 Secrets. We'll be getting this prompt every turn for a really long time. So is what it is. Not a big deal. And I didn't discuss this. I actually forgot to discuss this last video. But we did put up a bid for Abhiraja's Archers. How can you pronounce that? I'm not great with pronunciation. My apologies. And we got them. So that's pretty cool. Let's jump in and look at them, shall we? So, got a little Atavi Chief. Not really what we're after there. We're after the 50 Atavi Archers, right? They got short bows, only 11 damage, so not the greatest, but they are actually pretty good against barbarians, especially like 60 to 70 barbarians. They can actually do a really good job. But we didn't really get any barbarians. We did get some wolf tribe, which they are also good against because the wolf tribes don't really have shields or helmets. And they are probably, in this particular case, they are useful against heavy cav. Not for killing the heavy cav, but for soaking up lance charges. So both our Marauder Hunters and the Atavi Archers are going to be good at soaking up lance charges. So the map that we are at, we can see, right, like, no, we can't see any thrones. That's because the thrones are definitely going to be in the corners, right? I remember that this this map gen works that way primarily. I don't know how that's going to work with the underground, though. So they might not be exactly in the corners. They might be slightly off-center. There might be some weird scenarios there. And then also of note, we do have 3 fucking cave entries very near us. Ay. That could get complicated. But I think there's... So last time, part of the issue was the underground was all stuck under one area. I believe efforts were made to try to prevent that, and there should be several pockets of underground. So we'll see how that works. Could still mean that someone is like directly below our generalized area. It might just mean that, you know, that's an automatic fight, right? So we'll see how that goes. We are... last turn we got an Acolyte, so we'll be getting 14 RP a month towards our Thaumaturgy 3 goal. Obviously, again, main purpose here is this is for Augury, because we want to spam out Augury ASAP. We do get other stuff along the way, right? Like we do get Mind Burn, which is very effective for us and something that we can utilize. We do get Communion Master, Communion access, etc., which is something that we are going to be utilizing a lot of anyways. So this isn't like it's just a sheer run for run's sake. So is what it is. We are going to be recruiting a Marauder Chieftain and a Cultist this turn. Marauder Chieftain for the leadership, because we will need some more leadership. And the Cultist as a little bit of a byproduct. These guys are interesting. I've probably covered them in the national overview a fair amount. But they are stealthy, inquisitorial priest spies. Which is a lot going on for 70 gold, right? Most specifically, these guys can be pretty useful at helping push your Dominion because of the Inquisitor situation. When borders are up, you can put them on the edge of your borders with your neighbors and preach while hidden to kind of push those borders over. Also just use them as spies, which is pretty good. More specifically, they're very cheap for us right now, so it's easy for us to snag one, especially since they don't really cost resources, whereas if we're going for like Marauder Chieftains, we're eating into our resources, which are quite low at the moment, right? So it's very nice to grab a Cultist, and then what we'll do with that Cultist is we will roll him around and just site search, hoping that we, very specifically looking for H1, and the H1 sites that we're looking for are the 1 astral sites, right, primarily. So if we could get 1 or 2 of them in the initial kind of like 15 turns or so, that'll be pretty good for us. And there are a couple other sites that we can snag here or there that I think, but they're less consequential or rarer, so probably not going to be a big deal. So this turn, right, like we really are very interested in Traveler's Rest. But the assumption is that there's someone right here and someone right here, right? So we kind of need to get eyes. I really considered going immediately for this spot here in Corbion, right? And then potentially going to Traveler's Rest. The issue is that there are enough heavy cav in Corbion that they're actually showing up on the map, whereas in or not Corbion, yeah, Corbion in Anvest, right? Yes, so it's on the top. Gotcha. Whereas in Anvest, there aren't enough heavy cav for them to be showing up on the map, right? So we're probably gonna go for Anvest instead first. Because if we go into these heavy cav and, you know, they maul the Atavi archers, we basically lose them, then what's in Traveler's Rest might be too much for us to actually take, and we won't be able to reinforce, right? So instead, the plan is go into Anvast, probably reinforce next turn from Anvast to Corbion, from Tzeentch to Corbion, and then take that into Traveler's Rest. That does delay us by a turn, which means we might lose Traveler's Rest. But hopefully not. We'll see, right? Like, that's the generalized concept. So yeah. Thingies Crossy in that particular regard. Anything else to really talk about, right? We've got some interesting fucking things around us. We got some Jade Maidens around us. That is interesting in the concept that it does. So we do have access to nature immediately from our Marauder Shamans, who also have a 1 in 3 chance to get water. So that's not really a big thing. And our Bless, it's not especially like killy or super useful. It's just kind of a scale, so don't worry about this. Let's grab something that might be helpful for us later. So, you know, the prospect of Jade Maidens just, you know, doesn't really do a lot for us, especially when it's in our cap circle and we're not really going to be able to pump the production or anything like that of us. So this isn't especially exciting. Honestly, this is more of a, now we got to deal with Jade Maidens, because Jade Maidens and Amazons can be a little bit of a pain in the ass to kill in the early game. But aside from that, we've got Militias, Archers, Heavy Infantries, we've got Wolf Tribes, we've got Heavy Cav, right? So that's fine. There is another large province down here in New Mecria that we could potentially go for. It's just kind of seeing what's on the board at the moment. Let's take a look real quick at our actual competition here, right? So we have, out of the, I think there are 25 Warhammer nations in Sombre's Warhammer mod. 20 something, I think it's 25. But out of those, we ended up with Athel, Loren. And I'll do a little bit more in depth, but I'm just highlighting them real quick. Hekara, Bretonnia, Skavenblight, Karaz-a-Karak, Black Crag, Bone Nose Tribe, Middenheim, Itza, Khorne, Tzeentch, which is us, and then Nagaron. So it's very complicated on who would we want near us and who would we not want near us. The answer is we would want nobody near us. That would be the optimal situation. Actually, in the legitimate blitz that we did on YouTube for the Warhammer mod, when I was playing the Chaos Dwarves, that was kind of the lucky situation, because we used just the random map gen, and we didn't have wrap on. I think we had east to west wrap, but we didn't have north to south wrap on. So I just got stuck at the bottom, and I had just this massive expanse of land where no one was near me, and it was great. It was fantastic. I didn't have to fight anyone right up until the game was snatched. And that's not going to be the case this time around. So the elves are extremely difficult to fight in forests, and also these Way Watchers have armor-piercing longbows that hit fairly hard and have very far range, right? So all of the elves have the glamour boost in forest, right? So increased HP, increased strength, morale, precision, patrol bonus, blah 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 blah. And this tag, the Way Watcher longbow, will not harm friendlies in forest, is actually really fucking cool. Now you can only get 5 of these guys per turn. However, I swear to God, every time I start recording, it's like people are not messaging me until it's time for me to record. So those guys are very dangerous. But then also just the Deepwood Scouts, the Azrai longbow is quite good, right? 45 length, 14 to hit, right? 15 damage, still pretty fucking good, right? Even the Glade Guard, if you just want to mass archers, are pretty solid. But specifically, it's the Way Watchers, because if we go a bunch of Chaos Warriors, right? Like, oh, we have 22 armor. These guys care significantly less because of the armor piercing, right? It still matters, but they care significantly less. So that's a pretty interesting matchup, right? Nehekara, the Tomb Kings have just a metric shit ton of options to utilize against us. The obviously, like, their big things are really big and they smash, right? But even just their Tomb Guard hit fairly hard. I say fairly hard. They come in. Don't they come in multiple? It's these ones, right? Not the defensive ones with the shield, but these ones with the Tomb Glaive. Hit for 25 is pretty good. So those are quite dangerous. They also have, don't they have Bane Fire Boys? No, they have Poison Boys, right? The Bow of Asaph. And we don't have any poison resistance, so this is a very easy way for them to us over, right? Bretonnia is actually probably a fairer straight up matchup, but these Grail Knights are akin to fucking Knights of Avalon in the fact that they are really good, they're sacred, they smash. My assumption is there's probably going to be a fairly heavy bless on them. And they do have the annoyance of things like flyers and stuff like that, so it can be very interesting. Skavenblight's crazy. We played Skavenblight on stream. They have a metric shit ton of tools. They have really crappy morale for the most part, but they've got a billion, 20,000 ways to apply poison or get through your armor or etc. etc. Dwarves are fairly straightforward, but they also hit very fucking hard and are very tanky, so it's a very interesting kind of like matchup. The Black Crag greenskins have access to some really heavy hitters with the Black Orcs and things like that. Will get randomized weapon and armory, as you do with a lot of them. They have the chopper and heavy shield, which is what we have right there. Massive two-handed chopper smashes. It's just crazy. It hits super fucking hard. But then they also have access to other big hitters like stone trolls or even giants, right? Though you can only get so many of them. Same-ish thing for the Bone Nose tribe, just in different varieties. They don't have the Black Orcs, but they do still have Savage Biggins that they can spam out that hit very hard, and that Berserk, right? Middenheim is kind of, honestly, Middenheim might be one of the ones that it's like, yes, give us Middenheim. Not because Middenheim doesn't have good answers to us, especially if they took like a particular bless, but they are the more straightforward thing that kind of wants to ramp up generally, rather than the Horde faction or we already have armor piercing, or we already hit like a truck, or we already have a shit ton of poison, or blah 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 blah, right? So Middenheim would probably be a good neighbor to have. Itza would also potentially be a good neighbor to have, depending on if they went heavy into a bless or not. They went heavy into a bless and they're planning on slamming Temple Guard and doing some of their sacred spawnings. That could be big trouble. But aside from that, really it's the Kroxigors that hit hard enough to cause us issues. And then some of their specialty units, like the Salamander doing fire, is actually generally okay for us. We have a fair amount of fire resistance across the board. And then they do have flyers, right? That's always an issue. That type of scenario. Khorne would be a rough matchup out of the gate, because their guys are just killier than our guys out of the gate. Just as tough, but killier. Right, so that would be rough. And then Naggarond is actually pretty bad as well because of the Shades have repeating crossbows that are armor pierced. They don't do much damage, and they are relatively low range comparatively. These guys are pretty cheap for what you're getting, and you can mass them, and they're stealthy, and they're actually not the worst things in the world in melee, and they will fucking wither you with this fucking repeating crossbow. And they do get a combination, so like you have the repeater hand bow and a curved sword, which is a little better in melee, or the full-sized repeater and a short sword, which is what we're looking at right now. That's what it is. Sorry, you can actually just recruit each one. I thought it was randomized, but it's not. So either or is actually a problem. And then they actually have some, pretty tough other tools, but really the scary thing out of them is just masked shades. So that's a potential issue. So realistically, we would probably want, Middenheim near us, and then maybe we would want like Itza if they're planning on scaling. As far as who we would want for like an initial target, it's probably maybe like one of the greenskins or maybe like the rats before they can get ramped up. Obviously it depends on like who the, what the bless is, who the player is, what the situation is, etc., etc. We are planning on trying to kind of like play tall. I'm not planning to be 100% passive, obviously. I do want to be kind of like opportunistic in this game, but I kind of want to try to take advantage of that. We don't have a super aggressive bless. We are trying to scale. We want to have a firm base, maybe take a few provinces here or there off somebody, and try to press our special mechanic, right? Like do the whole secrets scenario, get our free spawn demons, that kind of vibe. Just play for that kind of scenario and really get into the concept of playing around with some of our demonic toys that we get. So that's the overall game plan. I don't know. Now we're gonna get that option, because we got a lot of aggressive players in this lobby. A lot of players that a lot of good players, right? Like I'm probably one of the worst players in this lobby, and there's a lot of people in here that really understand good concepts of when it is a good time to engage and when it's not a good time to engage. And it's probably fairly likely that I get targeted in the beginning because people are going to identify, oh, it's Tzeentch, they want to ramp, they want to get like their border scenario going and get their secrets going and get a bunch of demon free spawn. We don't want that to happen, right? So that's probably going to be the plan, but we'll see how it goes. So, fingers crossed. Anyways, hopefully this will go, I think this will go super fine. Not worried about this in really any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's the question of how does the next turn go. We did get some Berserkers, as well as some Chaos Trolls, just kind of mixing Chaos Trolls in, because we had extra money this turn. Chaos Trolls, I think, are one of those things that I don't like using them for expansion because their combat speed is 16. They do tend to get in, even if you put them back, right? They'll get up into the mix with the rest of your units, and they'll probably do fine there. But then if there's another battle, like you break the first line, you go to another line, they will tend to outpace all of your other individuals. A lot of your chaos units will, actually. So I tend to not like to use them in small bands, but if you can get a mass of them, like 10 or 15, and actually just use them as a chunk together, these guys slap. Especially if you can do something about their relatively low protection or defense skill, right? They only have 5% regeneration, which isn't crazy. But if you can buff them, if you can do a couple little things to them, which we do have some options, right? Like you can do, if you have a fair amount of acolytes, you can do like some body ethereal spam, that type of stuff. Or if you get some glamour twos, you can do some displacement stuff, that type of stuff. And these guys can actually be a pretty decent force in the early to mid game, and even in late game. The issue, of course, being that they're too recruit. I honestly, you probably kind of swap over to the ogres later on, because the ogres tend to be, I think, more consistent for a slightly cheaper option, though they're more resource heavy. But anyways, that I'm waxing at length about nothing. We are jumping in. I didn't show it last time, so I will show it this time. Quick spears are up for bid. Not bidding on them. Actually, not really anticipating much interest. There are 30 of them, so it's not bad, but should be good. Anyways, that is the end of this turn. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.